everyone. It is the NFL draft, the 23rd pick in the draft belonging to the Minnesota Vikings, who secured Jordan Addison, the wide receiver from USC. We've got our Locked On Vikings host, Luke Braun, with us. I am Jordan Black, but first, Locked On's NFL draft coverage is presented by Ultimate Football GM. You think you can run an NFL franchise? Visit ultimate-gm.com to play the Ultimate NFL Draft Simulation game and start your dynasty today. All right, Luke, take us through this pick, securing a skill position player with the 23rd pick, Jordan Addison. What can Vikings fans expect with Addison, the wideout from USC?
Yeah, if you ask Kevin O'Connell what one of the biggest problems with the Vikings was heading out of the 2022 season, it was that you could kind of put a half safety over Justin Jefferson, bracket him, take him away, and there wasn't a lot else that the Vikings had to turn to. They didn't really have a guy that could win one-on-one. They needed that guy that could win one-on-one. Jordan Addison, maybe outside of JSN out of Ohio State, is like the best guy in this class at winning one-on-one. The way he runs his routes is extremely aggressive, but also very disciplined. He takes a lot of risks with the way that he runs his routes, but he knows exactly what he's doing. He's really heady. He knows coverages and how to attack it. It's very advanced. He's a very polished player. A little on the small side. He's not going to be that much of an asset in the run game in terms of blocking and stuff. But I'm very excited to have him as a complement to Justin Jefferson. They lose Adam Thielen. They bring in another guy. They're now 3 deep at the wide receiver position with like 3 serious people. And don't count out like Jalen Naylor as well. It's that offense is looking very interesting and flush with a lot of really interesting skill players.
Yeah, you mentioned Justin Jefferson. Can this kind of set up the Robin to the Justin Jefferson Batman, if you will, that perfect 1-2
For
punch?
sure. I think that's the idea, but I also think he probably in the immediate short term competes with KJ Osborne for that. And one of those guys is 2 and one of those guys is 3. But I think the idea is that Jordan Addison is sort of, the 1-2 punch with Justin Jefferson, so that defenses can't just spend all their attention on Justin Jefferson and get away with it.
Now, when talking about securing a skill position player at the 23rd pick, a lot of people are wondering why pass up on a quarterback, why the Vikings didn't grab Will Levis. What is your thoughts? What is your point of view on why that's the case?
So my understanding is the Vikings were very, very high on quarterbacks that went in the first 5 picks. So that they weren't able, they actually tried pretty hard to come up. They didn't come up to come up like way far, but it didn't happen. Everything kind of stayed in the realm of normalcy. Levis and Hooker were the only other 2 guys that I think anybody really thought had a serious chance to go in the first round. Neither of them did. They're just not the Vikings guys. Now you get into day 2 and you get to a certain threshold and maybe you think about it just because now the value's there. But those guys were never the first round pick quarterback. And I think as a team, when you're picking a quarterback in the first round, that's not a throwaway. You don't pick a quarterback in the first round every single year. That's your guy. When you pick that guy, that's your guy. And you better be confident in him. And they weren't confident in Levis, so they passed on him. I think it's perfectly valid if fans want to disagree. Absolutely. If you've got your own idea of Levis, you think he was the guy, then great. I think there's an argument to be made that he could be a pretty good receiver and a pretty good quarterback. Somebody's going to get a good one tomorrow. But if that's not your guy, I fully respect the Vikings not taking him. Don't take a quarterback just to say you took a quarterback. Get a guy that you really truly believe in, because your job's probably staked on it.
When you talk about tomorrow and talk about the rest of the picks that the Vikings have to make, what else do they need to do to ensure that this 2023 draft is a success for Minnesota?
Well, they need corners really bad. That was probably their most dire need coming into the draft. Now, of course, they can go pick something else in the first round and get corners later, and corners have fallen really far. The guys like Joey Porter, Cam Smith, Keely Ringo, all still on the board. Jacorian Bennett out of Maryland is an interesting name on the board. So there's a lot of corners on the board that could be interesting. They don't pick till pick 87. They don't have a second rounder. They spent that on TJ Hawkinson. But they are also, Dalvin Cook is probably on the trade block right now as well. So they might kind of randomly show up in the order when you aren't expecting them. And we'll kind of see what that is. But they need corners. And I also think at some point in the draft, they will walk away with some quarterback, but not, a first round one. Maybe we're talking about a 4th, a 5th rounder, kind of a shot in the dark throw a dart at the board kind of guy. That could be Jaron Hall. That could be Dorian Thompson-Robinson out of UCLA. That could even be somebody like Aiden O'Connell out of Purdue, really deep on day 3. Yeah, I would say those are probably the priorities right now. And then they could probably get some D-line help too, but they only have so many picks.
When looking at Jourdan, is there anyone else that you can compare him to, whether in the league now or someone who's played, that might help fans recognize what they're getting?
Like a comparison for Jordan Addison?
Yeah. You're still doing a lot of research. We know.
Yeah, I don't have a great one. Yeah, I don't think I have a very good answer to that. You're getting a receiver who is small but savvy, and a threat on the outside. It's because it's weird. If you want to go small but savvy, you could name a bunch of slot receivers, but he's not just a slot. He's small but savvy, but helpful on the outside. I guess you could kind of put him down the track of like a Devonta Smith, kind of. I think there's a lot of differences. I don't think that's a perfect comp by any sense of the stretch of the imagination, but that's sort of the route you're going. That's the style. We're in that category.
Well, we'll let you noodle on a good comp, and we will direct people to Locked On Vikings, where you can get all of the Vikings intel from Luke Braun, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. That's your team every day. Luke, thank you for the insight. Much appreciated.